Hello there, my name is Cindy Ballas and my father is the inventor of the Sacro Wedgy. Now, the way he came to develop this concept started many years ago, back in the late 50s actually. A friend of his was an osteopath, and with my dad being a retired football coach and trainer, it was only natural that they occasionally would talk about some of the physical problems and ailments that some of the athletes would have. And of course the lower back is the most important part of an athlete, the hips rather, in the middle of the body. If you're out of balance in the hips, or real tight, you're going to be out of balance everywhere and not really be able to perform to your best. So what he did is take this osteopath suggestion, and it was so simple. He did it for years, and all it was is he just said, "Coach, just hold the sacrum." And now the sacrum, of course, is the middle of the hips, the middle of the body. And he would get them on the training table if they had any type of low back issues, leg pain, hip pain, back pain. Get them on the training table and just do just like the osteopath suggested and hold the sacrum. Now the problem here is that in order to really get the results that he wanted, he had to hold it a good 20 minutes. And of course that's a long time to do that, but he said during that 20 minutes in his hand, it felt almost like a war zone. He could feel the quivering, the resistance of the muscles, and then for some reason around that 20-minute mark, all of that just subsided. The hips would relax and everything would just kind of naturally let go. And of course, being a trainer and a coach, it was his next step would be to take the player and let them just take their weight and hang from like a door sill or something, and while their body weight was dropped down, he would tape the hips if they were really having some problems. So all of these common sense things that he did instinctively, then we've taken to the next level working with therapists. So after doing this for years, and his athletes would follow him to work or wherever he was and say, "Coach, can you do that again?" That's the only thing that ever really helped. So he could be at work or anywhere, and he'd have somebody on a coffee table, a kitchen table, a work table. He'd have him there with his hand under him like that. And finally, one of the guys wanted him to come help his wife, and that's really that's what prompted him to say, "There's got to be an easier way to do this." So it took him about 10 years actually to develop what would mimic the hand. Now, the hand would isolate, cradle, and elevate only the sacrum. And after a while he realized that there's a very distinct difference in our anatomy. So the male sacrum is a little bit more narrow, a little bit longer. The female sacrum shorter and wider. The width, of course, being for the birth canal. Now, exception to this fit sometimes will be a taller woman with a more narrow frame. She's going to be more comfortable on the male version. Now, in the beginning, all we were doing really is just lying there and relaxing. This very simple device actually won second place at a big inventors contest up in New York many years ago. It was a worldwide competition, and this very simple device, we didn't have the elevation pad. It was the same color. It was very crude instructions. I mean, we were just in the very beginning infancy of this concept, and it took the silver award. They were just fascinated with the possibilities, I suppose. And over the last 20 years, working with such a variety of therapists that had used it, instead of just lying there and relaxing, which is still getting results, we've developed a series of routines and stretches. And the most important muscle, I believe, for the therapist to access is the psoas muscle. Now, over the years, we've realized the importance of this very large muscle, and a technique that therapists are taught is to go in internally. Well, what my dad and some other therapists have come up with is, while the sacrum is neutral and slightly elevated, you just take the heel of the hand and pulse in the top of the thigh. And this way you get a nice gentle release in the psoas muscle. These are really the three major muscles we're working with. The psoas muscle starting at the back, ending in the front. Of course, the piriformis muscle, if it gets in a bind, it's going to get involved with the sciatic nerve. And then one that you don't see here is the sartorius, which is the longest muscle in the body, starting at the hip and ending below the knee. So once this torque happens in the pelvic girdle, you're going to have a lot of quite a variety of symptoms that are created. So we're ignoring the symptoms and we're concentrating on the muscle structure. Now you put support under the neck. It's very important that we use the weight of the head to drape over this neck support. We're trying to create balance at the top of the spine. So we now have the top and the bottom of the spine stabilized, and as your body just relaxes, these muscles now have a chance to start moving slowly and naturally back into place. This is not a quick fix. And for some people it really hurts in the beginning. You can really feel the stretch of these muscles that have been torqued out of place for quite some time. Now what we're going to do on this next step is actually go through 2 demonstrations. One will be just my routine of what I do by myself, because its original intent is just to be able to relax and the self-care aspect of it. And then we have a massage therapist, Yvonne Butler. She's been working with us for quite some time now. And we do workshops, and she teaches other therapists some of the routines that we've developed over the past good 20 years or so. Now I'm going to show you how I use the Sacro Wedgy personally. First, you want to always be on your side first, and the placement is going to go right under the sacrum, right in the middle of the hips. So you're going to want to take the placement right in the middle with the pad, and then first come on it and keep your knees bent for a minute. Get the placement. Might take a little bit. Takes some getting used to for a lot of people in the beginning. But once you feel that curve match, you'll just keep your knees bent for a minute. First thing I like to do is just kind of rock side to side. This is easy to do by yourself. And depending on how much resistance is in there, you might even want to start with no elevation at all and then slowly build. Now normally I use 2 of those bases because I've been using it for 20 years. So after you rock side to side a little bit, just stretch out, just lay there and relax. I mean, you kind of get your own little routines. I like to rock it out a little bit. And then another one that's easy to do is the pelvic tilt. Now don't engage the shoulders, and just lower the small of your back to the table or to the floor. And then you're going to arch up again, and then lower the back again. Always do this pelvic tilt before you get off. After a while, you kind of develop your own little routines with it to what suits you the best. I like to do the butterfly. It's where the bottom of the feet are together. Once again, you can just rock it out. It's another good one to do by yourself. Slowly straighten the legs, rock a little bit more. Of course, you might want to take it at a different speed. Everybody's different. This is what I do personally, but like I said, I've been using it for quite a while as well. Just lay there and relax a little while. And after a few minutes, if you want, you don't have to lay there 20 minutes solid, just lay in there. You can do some moves. I like to do this pelvic tilt again. And then before you always want to do the pelvic tilt before you get off. And then you always want to roll to your side. Take the Sacrowedgy out. And then you can do a stretch. Hold the knee down and stretch. Shoulder down. Go to the other side. Go completely to your side first. Hold. And then just stretch it out. And then whenever you get up, you always want to go to your hands and knees first. And then you can stretch it out a little bit more. However you want to do, find your own routine and your own comfort zone. And Yvonne is going to now come and take us through how a therapist would work on a client. This is Yvonne Butler. She's a massage therapist here in Mobile, Alabama. We both live here, and she's worked with my dad quite a few years now. So Yvonne does workshops with me, and we teach other therapists these techniques. And so Yvonne, take it away.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Butler, as she said, and I do work with the Sacro Wedgy. And basically, I'm going to be giving you bones of a protocol that you can do with your clients, and you can add and be as creative as you would like. It's meant to be a help and to facilitate working the psoas and loosening, of course, all the muscles of the lower back. Basically, you'll have your client turn towards you, and you place the wedge in their hands, and you tell them to put their tailbone right about there. And then you come back with the lift, you cover it, and replace their hand, and you tell them to roll over onto their back, keeping the knees bent. And a good visual aid is when you stand at their feet, you can see a little bit of the wedge and a little bit of the color sticking out. Just peeping out, you're right. And so then you can take their knees and rock them back and forth, loosening up the connective tissue, getting some circulation going. Also, this is a good point in time where you can see if they have issues, because generally their knees will fall very easily to one side or the other. But many times as their knees falls, if on one particular side, that they will have like a series of what I call clicks. They'll click, click. Instead of going smoothly, you can tell that that is the side that's going to have more trigger points or more congestion in the fascia. So after you do this for a while, you can do this as long as you like or as short as you like, just until you see that the client is relaxed and resting, and that their body is slowly allowing the muscles to release on its own. You take one leg and, well, first you just rock back and forth for a while, and then now I'm going to go on the other side.
We're taking the instruction book one page at a time. It's turning the page, so this will be the visual to go along with the
Keep the leg that you're working on, you're going to extend, and you're going to adduct to about this side. The other knee you're going to keep bent. Now you find your bony landmark, which is the ASIS, and then you're going to find the insertion of the psoas onto the femur. You can put one hand underneath and loosen the hamstrings a little bit, and then with the heel of your hand you go from the bony landmark and just kind of slide in to that insertion, and you can do what I call like a CPR movement and pulse, deeply pulse onto that insertion, hold, go back and loosen the hamstrings some more, and pulse. And you can do this for as long as you need to. And another good visual aid is if you can see that their foot is going up and down, like they're pressing on the gas, you know you've got the right muscle, right bone.
This is a lot more gentle than what's taught.
Right, and it's less invasive than going through the abdomen and moving all of the viscera over to work this psoas muscle, which is commonly taught in most schools. We have seen a lot of clients with trauma and physical injury because therapists have not always done it gently and correctly. So that is one way to address the issues of the psoas. Now I'm going to show you a series of stretches that you can do. Now on page 3 I'm going to demonstrate some of the stretches that are in the instruction manual. After you have worked the insertion of the psoas on the femur, you can then take your client into a series of stretches, and because they're on the wedgie, you get, and they're suspended off the table just enough, you get a greater range of motion, and your stretches are more beneficial. You can get not only a greater range of motion, but you get a deeper stretch. So we're going to take the leg, and we're going to stretch the hamstrings. Kind of, I pulse. I take my hand and I kind of pulse into that ball and socket of the hip. Back up and do another stretch. And if you have a client who is particularly tight on their hamstrings, you have them take the index finger of the side of the body that they're working on that you're working on, and you have them find the sinkhole right above their lip, and they're going to push it and irritate it a little bit. That's governing vessel number 26 in Chinese medicine, which is, I call it like a reboot switch of the body, and you can actually get your client to give you almost 4 inches more than what they're able to do normally, and without having them, you know, feel a lot of pain, or it just really facilitates your stretches more. All right. Then we're going to do a nice little twist this way. You don't force it. You're not going to, if you feel resistance, you stop right there and you let the body tell you its boundaries, and you respect that. Kind of pulse it again into the ball and socket. And now we're going to go up and over. And you're up and over. We're going to work, this is the piriformis stretch. I usually, you place your hand over here by the ASIS joint. Again, you go up and over the bony landmark there. When you're finished, you're going to make, put their knee into your elbow and make a nice number 4 that way. And again, place your hand on the ASIS landmark. Gently lay your hand on the knee and just kind of rock, and you'll get a nice little stretch that way. Take the knee, the ankle, and kind of go down a little bit further. And that completes the first side of stretches. And they can lay there for a few minutes before you go on to the other side, or you can just immediately start the routine on the other side of the body.
Someone's stronger on one side.
Right. If you have a client who has maybe one leg that is longer than the other, or is suffering from scoliosis, usually you can determine that they are more dominant on one side of their body than the other. And you can check to see if the psoas is stronger on one side than the other by having them resist you. As you go toward their feet, they're going to push their knee toward their head, and then you can check on the other side as well. And if they are weaker on one side than the other, there are a series of stretches in the book, and isometric exercises that they can do that will help strengthen the psoas on that side of their body. And here she has locked her arm, and she's resisting her own knee. And you do that 5 times, a set of 5 times a day for about 2 weeks, and then you can build it up to 7 and then 10, and that will help bring balance back to the psoas. Now that we've covered the stretches from page 3 to 7, I want to show you how to help your client do the pelvic tilts. Have your client bend their knees, and while they're on the wedge, tell them to push your hands into the table with their back. Because many times when you say pelvic tilt, they'll go the opposite way. But when you want them to start out with, you want them to push your hands into the table with their back. And keep the shoulders relaxed and down. And you can hold that 3 to 5 seconds or even longer, and then they have them go the other direction. Now, you can also tell them, and you can facilitate this, you remove the wedge, have them lay on their side, bring the knee up, and they can do this stretch and have them drop their shoulder to the table. And sometimes they'll have a spontaneous release in the SI joint. Also, on the next page, on page 9, we have areas where you can treat the sciatic nerve and the piriformis. By holding the knee as they lay on their side to keep the bottom leg straight, you're going to hold the knee up and kind of rest it against yourself. And you can massage and work the area around the sacrum where all of the ligaments and tendons are attaching. You can, by lifting their leg up just a little bit, You can really get in to where the piriformis and sciatic nerve are running together out of the sacrum and down the leg. It's usually a hot spot. And you don't have to dig and hurt, but by holding it just enough for a little while, you can really make it feel better in just a few moments. And then you will also repeat this on the other side of the body. And see, have them turn again onto their back. You can replace the wedge. And then have them put their bottoms of their feet together and do what we call the butterfly. And they can rock themselves back and forth, not using their leg muscles, but using their hands. They can do a nice stretch in the abductors and in the lower back as well. And then slowly slide the feet forward, keep rocking, and you can get a greater stretch all through the pelvic floor and the abductors there.
Show how to sit on it.
And that completes the routine for the table, and now we will show you how you can use it for clients when they want to sit at a computer desk for any length of time in their car, basically using it in all forms of transportation and sitting in office furniture.
Sitting can be a real big problem for many people that travel, and the reason for that is some of the seats dip in the middle, the bucket seats, or they're just really soft. And the way our anatomy is we sit on the sit bones or the ischial tuberosity, and there's literally a space under the coccyx. Right between, there's just a small space between the end of the tailbone and the seat that you're sitting on. Now, back in about 40, 50 years ago, a lot of the seats were made with a small rise in the middle. You've seen old farm tractor seats. I've seen like old secretarial furniture. Flat wooden chair has that little hump, that little rise in the middle. Well, that was filling in the gap. And so what we're doing now with the Sacrowedgy is basically going back to the concept of creating a level plane. It's all, some therapists even say it's like having a third sit bone. So this is a very important part of getting our alignment back balanced again. You can lie on the Sacrowedgy, and that's where gravity kind of helps the body balance, and then that's making the correction. And sitting is preventing the imbalance from happening again. So, I mean, I always take it on the plane. It's in the car. It's going to be at the at my desk or wherever. It's just, if I'm going to be sitting for any length of time, this is a lot more comfortable for me. But I've been using it 20 years too. So whenever you sit, it's going to be just filling in this space, as you can see, and it's going to be stopping that drop from happening. So what you would do is just put the Sacrowedgy flat in the seat. Now, since I'm kind of short too, I'm also going to put something under my feet to raise my legs just a little bit, my knees. So you just want to sit on it. It's right in the middle. Put something under the feet. This really isn't quite high enough. You really want to try to get the back of your leg almost off of the chair. And that in turn keeps the posture up, keeps the spine from pushing the sacrum down in the middle. And this is where a lot of people get in trouble on a long trip, is just with gravity. Gravity's going to fill in a hole, and it's your body that's just dropping in that dip in the seat. So what we're doing now is just filling in the gap, stopping the drop. Put a book under your feet if you're short, and get their knees picked up a little bit. And you can sit for hours, you can travel for hours. It's not going to let you slump, because you really feel it if you start to drop and slump. So it does make you really sit up straight. You stay a lot more alert if you're driving on a long trip. So it's a very valuable tool to have for self-care, for prevention, for the massage therapist to use as a tool. We're very fortunate that quite a few therapists are now using it in their practice, and for themselves as well. We really do stress the self-care, and that's what we teach in a workshop too, is the self-care part of this for the professional, and also how you can use it as a tool working with your clients. So thank you.